Hey guys, how are things? We're just showing you a video today. I've got a new knife in the post. Now, it's a new old knife. As you know, I'm using the Wright Genesis for, I want to say about 2 years now. This one's seen a lot of use between strike and flint and processing game, rabbits, deer, trout, whatnot. This knife has done pretty much everything for me in the last 2 years. It's fairly patinaed up now, but it's still fully functional. It came with a nice JRE leather sheath. Now that comes directly from Wright. You can see there's a bit of wear and tear on the sheath as well. This knife has seen plenty of use, but hey, that's what they're for. Now, in my opinion, this is the best bushcraft knife that there is out there. And have I tested every single bushcraft knife in the world? No, I haven't, but I've tested the big ones. I had an original Ray Mears, the Woodlore, and this is, in my opinion, definitely better than that. A lot of the bushcraft knives nowadays, they tend to go for a 4mm stock. This is 3mm or 3.2, thereabouts. And I think that is kind of the sweet spot with a Scandi grind. Anything more than that, it's not very dexterous. So, I've shown you before, I have a lanyard through this, and when I wear it on my hip, I'm left-handed, I have a carabiner that I clip that onto so I can't lose it. Now, this brings us on to the new knife. It comes in this sheath that Wright make, it's called the DWX sheet, okay? The deep wood sheet, and it's Kydex. And when it's locked up here like this, there is absolutely no way that it's not coming out, okay? And for me, this is fantastic because I always believe when you push this down now, you can get access to it. But I always believe a knife that's hanging in your sheath that could fall out, you know, if you're canoeing, fishing, climbing, whatever, that's a huge problem. So we're going to test this knife here for you now. It's, as I said, I've been using the Wright for 2 years now, so we kind of know what it is and what's what. The spine, I have to say that the spine on the Wright knives, I've never ever seen a spine quite like it. And if anybody's looking for a really high quality bushcraft knife, I wouldn't look any further than this. They're very, very tough. The fisheye bolts on them, it's A2 tool seal. And if you notice the chips out of the spine of my old knife, because some people used to say that A2 won't make a spark, even though it is a carbon steel with a high stone, high hardened stone. So basically any stone that is more than 7 on the scale of Mohs hardness will strike a spark. It's actually the steel that makes the spark, not the stone. But it does work. Maybe not quite as good as 01, but it definitely does work. So we're going to do a little bit of battening now. This blade is about 4 inches long, give or take, 4¼ inches I think. And they impregnate a resin before they put the handles on with these fisheye bolts, so there's no possibility of any kind of moisture ingress here. This is an Ashram Tan Micarta. Very, very comfortable, much more comfortable than the Coke bottle shaped handles that you see in a lot of bushcraft knives. And it seems nowadays in bushcraft knives they've taken the form of art, which is great. And they introduce a lot of very angular points here around the pommel. But the problem is when you're chest lever and stuff like that, and a chest lever is a grip that you'll be using an awful lot in bushcraft and survival for fast removal of stock, it becomes very, very uncomfortable. Now, what I like about this handle in particular, and I always said that a knife should be built from the handle out, because this is the part that you're going to be holding on to, and if that's not comfortable, it's going to be a problem. And it's a broomstick style handle, and it's, you know, simple, works. A broomstick, if you think of your broomstick at home, a child can use it and an adult can use it, a giant can use it and a very small person can use it. And this is the same. So it's kind of fits everybody's hand, you know, and it's easy to hold on to. It's like a hammer or whatever, you know. You just can't do better than simple. Okay, so we're going to do a bit of battening with it now. Feather stick, and I want to show you a tip as well regarding striking a ferrocerium rod and the success with a ferrocerium rod. So just talking about the ferrocerium rod end of things. So we're in there, this is seasoned sycamore, you know, this is about as thick as you would ever need really in a survival scenario. So a small knife, and you know I do like a big knife, but a small knife can function as a survival knife, given that it has a good structural integrity. I'm not a fan of stick tang knives. I like a full tang knife. And be careful when you're buying a knife that underneath this alleged, not with this knife, this is a full tang, but in some knives it looks like it's a full tang, but behind these handles it's skeletonized for balance. Okay, it's not a good idea in my opinion, because it's no longer a full tang knife, and sooner or later you might have two pieces of steel to balance where the handle broke. So LT Wright A2 steel is brilliant, and nobody does A2 steel I think quite as well. I don't know what LT does with the heat treat, but it is absolutely amazing. And I would be a big fan of whatever way you heat, and it doesn't matter what steel it is. I have a Bushcrafter, and it's in 1075, and the heat treat in that is absolutely amazing. You know, for a steel that you might see a company like Condor, or you know, a cheaper steel, should we say. Now we've a lot of twist going on here, but it's still motoring its way through. Knots here now as well, you can see a lot of knots. So it's not... Now, on some of the videos I put up, people go, you know what, I don't batten with my knife, I'm just going to bring an axe with me. Now here's the thing, if I knew I was going into a survival scenario, I'd probably bring a full-size axe, a chainsaw, a gallon of petrol, a foil for my chainsaw, etc, etc. But as I said before, survival scenarios happen when you're least expecting them. So it's good to have a knife that you can batten with. Now, there are people out there that don't use full tang knives, such as Cody Lundin, and I have a huge amount of respect for him. He works with an old Mora Classic and it works for him. But what we have to remember is the majority of his work is in desert-like terrain. So he's not going to need to batten through timber to get to dry wood. So, you know, battening isn't as much of a concern for him. So, we made up a feather here. I just want to show you something now, because sometimes when I'm teaching students about ferro rod technique, and there's a common sense that has to prevail with a feather rod, or with a ferrocerium rod. When you're striking a ferrocerium rod, and I've seen this time and time again, people are striking, they're striking, they're striking, and there's nothing happening with the feathers, because the feathers aren't good enough to take a strike, to readily accept a spark from a ferrocerium rod, because your feathers aren't thin enough. Now, there's an easy way to circumvent this, because it can be quite difficult to learn how to feather to the extent that it'll readily accept a ferrocerium rod strike. So I always say to people, carry a little bit of jute twine on you, because if this is good for making 10,000 fires, that's working on the basis that you're going to gain ignition on every strike. If you have to make 1,000 strikes to get this feather lit, you're not going to get 10,000 fires out of it, you know. And the problem is people get very, very stubborn. Now, stubbornness is a great thing in survival. It actually is great, as long as your stubbornness is working in your favour. You have to be very foolish to do the same thing over and over again and expect a different result. So at the first 10 or 11 strikes, if this isn't giving you ignition, you need to change. Become stubborn with exploration of different ideas, okay? And a simple answer for this is a little bit of jute twine. I think I have a bit in my pocket. I nearly always carry jute twine, but about 3 inches of jute twine. Okay, so we've got about 3 inches there. If we look at the blade is 4 inches, so give or take 3 inches there, okay? I'm not going to fluff this bit out because it'll take me about 3 minutes to fluff it out. I have a bit here that I pre-fluff. So that's what you're getting out of 3 inches of jute twine, okay? Now, we're going to strike this. And this should in theory go with the first strike. Okay? And now you've got your less than good quality feathers lit, okay? And now this resource is going to last you much, much longer. Now, how much space is a little bit of jute twine going to take up in your pocket? Okay, so this is a tip for people that are struggling with feather sticks. And remember, if you're not getting more than 4 curls on your feather stick, it's a pairing, it's not a feather. But remember, even if you're not getting 4 curls, you can still gain ignition with using a little bit of jute twine. So sometimes old technology like jute twine is better than paracord, because you're not going to do that with paracord. Just showing you the spine here. It's an absolute screamer. LT Wright knives, they're amazing for striking a ferro rod. You know, they're just incredible. And it's not just for striking a ferro rod, it's also good for prepping tinder and fat wood and stuff like that, for striking a ferro rod, or any type of general scraping that you might want to do. So guys, that's pretty much it. In my thinking, this is the best bushcraft stroke survival knife in the world. That I really do believe this. It's a good quality carbon steel, but yet it's not so high tech that you can't sharpen it on a river stone. You know, so this is important as well, that you can maintain your tools in the wild. They're so well made. You know, you can hammer that McCarthy pommel, it's not a problem. So guys, if you have any questions about LT, I think they're sending me over a next gen soon, which is a slightly smaller Kephart style knife. I think it would be a fantastic kind of neck knife for bow drilling and stuff like that. So listen guys, thanks for dropping by, and we'll see you soon. Take care.